Hello. Welcome to another welcome to another episode of Brown Girls Sound Off, BGSO, where we center and amplify the voices of beautiful women of color. Welcome back. And hello, Miss Jones. Hi, Rena. How are you?
I'm great.
Woo. First of all, look at this pink and green. Look at my sis Chantal, pretty and pink as always. Oh, she said, let me pop a 1 and a 2. And then my gorgeous soror over there was like, and I'm okay, okay, because it's a whole serious matter, right?
Serious matter.
All right, listen, if you are watching, especially if you are down with Greek life, you already know what these laughs and smiles and all this fun is all about. Giving a shout out to the AKAs out there. And so if you've been following our podcast recently, which hopefully you have been, and if not, welcome to the party, right? If you're a newbie, welcome to the party for sure. But if you've been following us, you know that for the month of October, we've been talking about the power of yes and no. Again, two very, very short words, but how powerful are those two words when you are saying yes to things that that really uplift you and ground you, and saying no to things you want to throw away, right? No to things that don't serve you. So today, I'm so sad that this conversation is coming to an end, ladies, but today, with Halloween just 3 days away, we're going to be talking about saying no to single stories about Black femininity. Oh, I said it right. Black femininity, right? And so let me just kind of preface it by saying this. So one thing that I've noticed, right, because I'm always noticing something on social media, one thing that I've noticed is that there's a lot of tension in the air between Black men and Black women. So just to kind of throw this out there, you know, this episode is specifically going to be talking about Black men and Black women, right? This is a conversation for everyone. So I hope that even if you don't identify as a Black man or a Black woman, that you still, learn something from this conversation. But just, I want to preface it by saying that those are not the only types of relationships out there, but that's what we're talking about this episode. But anyway, there's a lot of tension between Black men and Black women now. Now, let me just say this. Not all the tension is bad. There's some really, really good tension out there as well, right? We're gonna talk about that energy in a moment. But so the other day, I can't remember if I was in a group, because I belong to many groups, or if this was just like a friend who posted. But they posted something, one of those typical posts where it's like, you know, I guess it was like from the Black woman's perspective, like, yeah, we want a man who can da-da-da-da. It was something like that. It wasn't anything too negative or anything, but one of those. So in the comments, there was a Black man who was just like, basically, but yeah, y'all Black women are, manly enough for the both of us. I'm paraphrasing, right? He ain't say that, but that's kind of the gist of it. And that's that other tension that I'm speaking about, right? So there's this notion that I feel, from my perspective, I've seen a lot of tension around, Black men expecting something very particular from Black women. And when they don't get it, some of them, this is not all, by the way, then there's this category that some of us as Black women are placed in. So anyway, in the comments as well, this other person was like, well, yeah, take a look at this video. I'm not going to, I don't give people free publicity a lot of times, and I don't like to call people out. But anyway, there's a matchmaker. She's a Black woman, and or a relationship coach, by the way, sis, I share with y'all later. But in the video, it talked about, like a Black feminine woman. And these were her words, by the way. It was like Black feminine woman, as if there's some of us who aren't feminine, right? It's a whole different thing, which we may talk about, and how we connect with potentially, she called high value men. So again, these are her words, Black feminine woman. And she, I guess, identify herself as a, heavy on the feminine, right? Living in the feminine. And so it was so interesting. I was watching it, right? I was like, oh, okay. Anyway, so speaking of which, there's a lot of, talk about like feminine energy, masculine energy, and what that means for us. I mean, I'm not going to get too much into my opinion just yet, but I will say that it always gives me pause when I hear this conversation going on around me or when I see it. Because I can't lie, there are many aspects of this conversation that I identify with on both sides. You know, I hate the whole sides thing, but on both sides. And the thing that I hate most sometimes about this conversation is it pits some of us, you know, against one another. Right. So we can talk about all that, but I want to know, you know, from you all, and I know I just gave a really quick, brief synopsis, but what do you think about like feminine energy and masculine energy? And why do you think that, you know, some of us as Black women lead with what people may perceive as masculine energy? Like, what is the why behind it? Because a lot of people talk about it. They may turn their noses up to it. They may cast some of us who present that way, you know, off to the side. But Chantel, like, what do you think about this whole notion of, you know, feminine versus masculine energy?
Well, it's so funny because I've been seeing a lot of talk about this masculine and feminine energy. And I think for me, you can be both as a woman. I think the issue is a lot of us lead with that masculine energy, meaning we're a lot, you know, stronger in how we communicate with certain things, maybe, or how we present. Sometimes it could be our tone, right? Or that boss chick kind of persona, right? A lot of people perceive that to be masculine. Also that ultra maybe independent aspect of who we are can be sort of viewed as masculine. I think our feminine energy is when we're more softer, more flowy, much more gentler in our tone and our approach. Even in sometimes how we look, our appearance sometimes can come off as ultra feminine, ultra soft, ultra sexy. And I think, but to be feminine is something that is inside, right? Like when you can be both, but you have to know when you're in those individual energies and how to turn them off and how to switch them, especially as it pertains to relationships and how you kind of interact with maybe the opposite sex, right? I think that's a good way to put it.
Okay. No, I mean, I love the way you put it, especially the part about like the self-awareness, right? Like, so knowing when you're, you know, when you're operating in either energy or a mixture of, you know, of the two, you know.
Yeah, like I can give an example maybe, and this might help. You know, sometimes that masculine energy for us as women is our to-do list, right? And we boss and we doing it. And we out here and we getting it done and we running the businesses and we making the money and we slinging the bacon on the stove, right? And we in go mode, right? But when we are with our partner, our feminine energy could be, well, sweetie, can you open a jar for me? Like I can't open a jar. Or it could be wanting to wear something soft. It could be wanting to have a spa day. It's in your aura. It's in your energy. It's in how you approach someone, having a conversation, you know, using a gentler tone, right? And knowing how you feel in both of those energies, right? So I think those are some of the examples that I would sort of use to know if you're in your masculine energy versus your feminine energy.
Interesting. I have so many thoughts, but I'm gonna go to Edwina. I'm gonna save my thoughts for now. Thank you so much, sis. And Edwina, what do you think? You know, about this whole feminine versus masculine energy?
I listen. I have thoughts for days because when I hear things like that, I think like, what does that mean? And so that's always my question. Like, what does that mean? Feminine energy, masculine energy. What does that mean? I feel like it's one of those stereotypical definitions that it's one of those like beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What does it mean when I'm operating my feminine energy or my masculine energy? So maybe that's something that I need a clearer definition of before I can really go and speak on it. Like, what does that mean I'm acting in my mask? Because I think everything is feminine because I'm a female. So So that's where I stand on this topic, because when I am focused, when I am direct, when I'm soft, when I'm hard, all of that is part of who I am. I feel like all of that is a part of my femininity. So, if we're talking about identity, I identify as that. Like, all of that is a part of me, female. But I guess, like I said, coming from that stereotypical mindset, and we're going off of what the world defines as feminine and masculine, then I guess you would think that I operate more in my masculinity. This is, according to the world definition of it, because I am that person. I'm very assertive, like if I want something, I go after it. I'm, focused, I'm really driven, and they might seem to be qualities that may not be considered feminine. And, maybe it could come off as hard. Men are considered to be like that strong, that hard gender, where we're supposed to be the damsel in distress, which I can turn that on too now. But I feel like, even within this assertiveness that I have, that's also finds to be attractive to the male gender. So who's to say?
And we're gonna talk about that part in a minute.
Oh, okay.
we're gonna get there, sis. We're gonna get there. But I love what I love that you brought up, a lot of things, but what I love that you brought up is like, who's defining, Black femininity? You know what I mean? I love that question around that, because that's exactly what we're talking about, like the, saying no to single stories about Black femininity and what that means. Because, and, I'm not going to go too far down this road, but what I think I will just add this part, what I think happens when we operate in this like binary thinking as a society, as we tend to do, right? Black, white, boy, girl, man, woman, like there's always like two sides, right? When we operate in that like, realm of binary thinking, I actually think it hurts men as well, right? Because if operating in my femininity means that I am loving and I am soft and I'm gentle, so what does that say for my man?
Exactly.
Right? And so is he not expecting? And so now that's a much listen. Our podcast episodes are not that long, right? Maybe we can, we'll talk about that later. But I'm just saying, what does that mean for our men? And how they are expected to show up, and then how do they live out those expectations in their relationships with women, particularly Black women. Yeah. So, and with each other, right? That's a whole different thing, sis. So, Aurora, come on, jump on in here. What do you think?
Man, I got a lot of thoughts going on over here. I got a lot of thoughts. I mean, what Edwina was saying, a lot of things like resonated with me. One of the things is like, okay, well, what does that mean? Because I started to kind of like unpack that. I was just thinking about a lot of things, but one of the main things that I think is that people are products of their environment. Sometimes people had no choice but to be strong, and that's all they know. And I feel like also it deals with, like she said, like your characteristics or your personality. Like I feel like I'm naturally like assertive. I take charge, and especially that's what I do all day. I'm a teacher. I'm telling people what to do. I'm organizing stuff. I'm presenting. I'm getting things done. I'm checking off that to-do list. And I think that, as women, sometimes we can be so driven and we want to get things done, and we're used to like taking out leave, especially when it comes to kids. But I think we need to be mindful to create that space. Like, who wants to be strong 24/7? Like let's take the backseat sometime, and it's okay to be able to have that comfort and a relaxation, knowing that things are going to get done, especially if you have like a partner to lean into and asking and allowing them to do some of those things. Like I will be quick to be the damsel in distress, honey. I have no problem with it. I'm not trying to change my tire. Okay. I'm not trying to lift nothing heavy. I'm about to fall out. I need some help. Okay. So I'm quick to do that dance on distress. I have no problem doing that. So I think just sometimes and men like to do that, or men, like we need to allow them and create that space for them to help us with certain things, that I guess maybe by society, I mean, naturally they are stronger than us. So if there's a big, huge TV, but I look like trying to lift that when I got my husband right there. You go ahead and help me out, please, and thank you. You know what I mean? So I just think we just have to create that space, and we have to know, like, okay, let's have that comfort, and let's sit back and relax and have faith and know that things are still going to get done. Because I think sometimes we're just like, okay, I'm just going to do it because it needs to get done. But to create that space for the men in our life as well, too, to step in and take some of that load off and allow them to.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Thank you, sis. You brought up a lot of great points. And, you know, just to kind of go back to what kind of brought this conversation up for me, you know, this woman was specifically talking about what she named as high value men, right? And so I know, like, in talking with a lot of women, especially a lot of Black women, you know, there's this notion that you're right, absolutely. We want to lay our burdens down. And it has to be with a partner that we trust to be able to carry it for us, right? And so I think that a lot of us want to, you know, operate in that space where we can say, all right, let me not take care of everything. Let me, you know, put something else on somebody's plate. And I think, you know, that, again, that's a deeper conversation, but I think that for a lot of women, what comes up is, well, maybe I'm not, they don't say this, but maybe I'm not dealing with a high value man, right? So that could be, Chantal was like, so that can be, absolutely the case, because in the video that I saw, she was talking about, you know, the fact that, going back to Chantal's point, the fact that many of us lead with our masculine energy, you know, I'm putting this all in air quotes, is the reason why we're butting heads with Black men. That was her, like, whole thing she was saying. And it's like, for me, it's a yes and, right? I think that it's a yes and the and part is like, and don't blame Black women for it. You know what I mean? Like, and don't blame us for it. As Nafisa brought up, you know, for many of us, you know, in terms of being strong and being that one on the forefront, that's generational in terms of what we've had to do, right? And so when we lead with that, again, going back to what Edwina was saying, that's part of who we are, part of our identity. So I don't know, my internet was a little bit unstable a few moments ago. I figured that because I saw some of y'all like, what is going on? Hopefully it's back. Is it back? Okay, all right, good. So thank y'all. Listen, this is technology and we rolling with it. Raw, real, and relatable. So anyway, I want to kind of start to close out this conversation. So in these conversations that I'm seeing, you know, take place on social media and that I'm hearing, I'm noticing that there are definitely two sides. Again, I'm putting this in air quotes because I hate binary thinking, but there are definitely two sides to the coin. You know, there is, like, I see like a wave of Black men. It's like, yes, sis, yes. I know one of my Facebook friends, now we'll give, you know, free publicity on this one because his brother's dope. One of my Facebook friends named Ibn, he has this entire, like, platform around protect Black women, right? I see Chantal shaking in. So I've shared many of his things. He has daughters and sons, and everything is about, like, uplifting Black women. He does this work through his daughters. He also does his work through his sons. How dope is that, right? So there's, like, a group of Black men who are really like, yes, absolutely, sis, bring it on. We're here for you. We're down for you. We're holding you down. We're protecting you. Bring all that masculine energy over here because I value it and I see you and I love what you're doing. Ooh, I'm sorry, that made me sweat just saying that, y'all, because yeah, that's a whole thing, right? And it doesn't mean that same woman is in love, right? Like, come on. But anyway, then there's this other, I feel from what I've seen, you know, this other, you know, subset of Black men that's like, you know, all right, Black women, y'all to this, y'all to that, you know, can y'all make us feel needed? Can you all tone it down? Can you all let us lead, that's a much longer podcast because I don't, you know, I'm a leader, so nobody's gonna let me lead anything, period, right? Either I'm gonna lead or I'm not, okay? But anyway, that's a whole different thing. Right. And I love Black men. So, but I'm just saying, nobody's going to let me or not let me do anything. But, you know, there's a whole other subset of, you know, men like that who think that way. So I want to know, what do you all think about this? I'm throwing this out to anybody to chime in. What do you think about these, you know, like these two kind of subsets? Are you seeing this, you know, What y'all think? Y'all saw the first one, you know, the first kind made me do a little fan to my face, but what y'all think?
Are you saying in regards to the two types of men?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm definitely seeing it. I'm seeing men, and I think I was saying that earlier, like men who find a woman who is, I guess, what is it, walking in her masculinity. They find that attractive, and I think maybe those are what is considered those high value men. That are not intimidated by that, that value that see that as wow, you know, like there's a woman and sees that as a power of ours and not something to be intimidated by, not something as, oh, she wants to take my place. And I do then find the other males who see me operating in that and will walk away, like it's too much for them. They feel like I don't need them. And my thing is, I can see a guy who is okay with any feminine or masculine or whatever, who will see that. And I feel like when that man is operating in whatever he's supposed to be, you know, if he's a high value man or whatsoever, I feel like that's a time when that, like, there's a time and a place, like if I see him in his, you know, masculine energy or whatsoever, it does soften me up. And then I feel like I can naturally flow into the feminine energy. But it takes a certain type of man. It's not something that I just, you know, I see you weaken, and it like your mindset. You know, if you have that mindset of like, oh, she got everything, she don't want me to lead or whatever, then you probably would never see my feminine energy. And that's just, you know, what it is. So it's one of those give and take situations. You get what you put out.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
And then you're gonna get what you get and don't be
okay. And you won't get upset.
I totally agree with you, sis. It's like I was sitting here like, yes. I think it has a lot to just do with you know, them being secure with themselves and not seeing a Black woman who is independent, who is assertive, who has their, you know, their stuff together, you know, who's able to provide for themselves as an intimidation, but looking like, okay, yes, sis, you know, well, let's be a power couple, you know, let's do this, let's build together, you know, supporting one another and looking at it in that way. Whereas I feel that if a man is not very secure, they see that more, like you said, as a threat. And it's like, oh, I don't, she doesn't need me, you know? So I think it has a lot to do with how secure they are with themselves.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I wholeheartedly agree. It's funny when Chantal was talking about to-do lists and I stood up to show my shirt, which talks about, like, you know, my degrees that I have, right? And I thought about that. It was not even intentional for this episode. It was like, what can I throw on real quick? I don't have to iron. Let me throw that shirt on. But anyway, what I think about all of this too, because, you know, one thing that's important to us, you know, as a podcast group, but also, as for those of you who know, we also have a BGSO group on Facebook. One thing that's important to us as a group in all aspects of the word is that this doesn't become a male bashing or us versus them. That's not this conversation. And so I want to say that, right? And those of you who are in the group know that that's not what we're about. And, you know, I want to throw out there that I also see ways that we perpetuate that, you know, these myths and stereotypes within our own community. And, you know, by telling other women, you know, what it looks like to be a woman. And as a Black woman, how can, you know, this is how we should operate in a space. And if you don't, this is why you ain't got a man. You know, I see those types of things. And I want to believe that some folks who are, you know, doing that work are coming from a good place. I want to believe that, right? I never want to believe someone is intentionally doing harm to her fellow sister, but I absolutely see that. And so I wonder what that looks like in, let's say, you know, in the mental health spaces, or, you know, in those other spaces where folks are, seeking relationship coaches and stuff like that. I think it's important for those practitioners to also be doing the self-work of unpacking what they think about Black women and how it is that they've been, socialized to operate as a Black woman. And then how is that showing up in your work with other Black women? So, that's kind of why I wanted to bring this conversation, to the forefront as well, because it's not just, yes, I'm seeing it play out, on social media as this, Black men versus Black women type thing. But there's a lot of us who are like, yes, sis, it's right. I got my man because I do it and you don't, and it's just like, come on. What do you think about, this whole two sides of the coin thing?
I think for me, it is to each their own. I think, okay, so let me backtrack that statement. I think we really have to focus on how do we individually feel as Black women, right? And I don't know how we define these high valued men and what that means for us as Black women. I think we place too much value on things that have nothing to do with who we are as people. But I think that as women, especially as Black women, we get to define who we are for ourselves, and we should continually define who we are for ourselves. And I think when we're talking about masculine versus feminine energy, we have the ability to focus and flow in both of them. And I think the idea should be, how do we work together with these energies to create healthier relationships, as Black women, for men and women, you know what I'm saying? So I get where you're coming from, where there's always this rah, rah, rah against each other about who we are as Black women. And I'm like, you can be both. You can be masculine and feminine in your energy, and you're going to attract a person who can handle who you are as a woman, period. So period. I say flow in it,
flow in it.
Flow in it. I mean, you're going to find somebody who can handle all that and then some. So
I know that's right. And as always, it has been an amazing conversation. Remember that the goal, with BGSO, the podcast, is for us to get conversations started, but ultimately for those conversations to continue well beyond the episode, right? And so, as Chantel already pointed out, the whole goal of this conversation was to, hopefully bring up things that can contribute to healthier relationships, healthy and whole relationships, both with yourself and with other people. Please let us know what you thought about our conversation tonight in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you're identify as a woman of color and you're not in our BGSO group on Facebook, we invite you. Come on, sis. All right. Have a great night, everyone. Bye.